Welcome back to the 2024 Tire Rack One Lap of America presented by Grassroots Motorsport Magazine with coverage this year brought to you by Hooked on Driving, Everyday Driver, and the Valente Group. Brian and I are here with the Iowa Z06 team for this year's One Lap, and as you can tell by we've gotten both of our One Lap haircuts, we're getting closer to the event. So gentlemen, we're less than a week away. In a week from today, we'll actually be competing. Welcome. And why don't you tell us a little bit about yourselves and the vehicle you're bringing this year?
Kick it off, Dad. It's up to you. It's your car. We're taking his this year.
Go ahead, Ryan. You lead us off.
All
you
right.
Take us off.
So my name's Ryan Whalen. We are driving my father's Z06 again this year. Had some pretty good success with that up until kind of the end where we had to bow out, do some wheel damage. But yeah, looking forward to it. It was a good car last year. Held up really well, and looking forward to it this year.
Excellent. So obviously this year is your third year now, right? If memory serves correctly. And all right, so we're 3 years in. Has the event been everything you were expecting at first, and how has it transformed from what you were expecting at first?
I think it's transformed from the fact that I've gotten to know a lot of people on the event. We have a core group from around Iowa and Omaha that go. So, I have to say, I really look forward to the driving. I look forward to the challenge, but I look forward every year now to getting to see people that I've met in prior years. And it's kind of like coming together and seeing some old friends you haven't seen in a while. And I think it's really the people. Plus, I'm always happy to see Howard with his little bar open at night in the parking lot after a long day's drive.
And it's funny, isn't it? Because that bar kind of grows. It starts off as little, and then everybody keeps donating to the cause throughout the week. And it seems to grow in scale, and his car seems to sag a little bit at the end.
Yeah, so, as a matter of fact, I picked up a bottle yesterday for him.
There you go. Good man. Ryan, go ahead. Why don't you continue with that? What else do you got?
Well, Pat, you were talking about all the people from Iowa. It's like, I think this year there are, 7 teams with at least one person from the state of Iowa on board. What are you guys putting in the water, corn, and soybeans out there?
I think for an Iowa standpoint, I live in Denver now, but I can probably answer that. They're looking for turns. It's just straight roads after straight roads in Iowa, so that's their only chance to kind of get out of the state and take like a left or a right that's not just straight 90 at a stop sign. So that's my guess.
Very cool. So you talk about geography there for a minute. Obviously, over the past couple of days, it's a timely, topic. A lot of storms going through Iowa. A lot of storms going through the tornado belt right now, and it doesn't look like it's subsiding today. It looks like another heavy one. Pat, when we were talking prior to recording, you said you had one go about 2 miles west of your house. That's got to be unnerving. And what are your thoughts regarding the weather this year and that ever-present danger?
Well, you just have to be safe. You use you use your tools, you use the weather apps and stuff like that to kind of monitor what's going on with the weather. If it looks really bad, you're going to head into something bad. You look for an alternative route. If you can't find an alternative route, you look for a safe place to pull over, park the car, get into a convenience store or shelter, someplace like that until the weather goes by. That's about the only thing you can do to try and stay safe. You can't outrun them, and you don't want to drive through them. So that's kind of what our plan is, and that's what the Iowa boys and the wing grandpas. That's kind of what we talked about doing, and how we maintain awareness and be safe as we're doing the transit.
Well, I think this year, given the Mother Nature's propensity for heavy storms this year, it seems. Maybe we'll get some of the Iowa guys up there, and you can do a little pamphlet for us right away. As you're crossing through, here's some things to look out for. Because we do have some first timers out there, and I think unless you've gone through the weather, what was it, Brian? A few years ago, or maybe more than a few years ago, we had a Corvette drive into one of the areas that flooded pretty quickly and turned into a submarine. And he
that was in Norman. That was that night that we got off there.
Yeah. 15, right? Yeah. So there are people that tried finding different ways, and And it was like, oh, this road's empty, and there was a reason why. And we had to go down Flood Road, which was appropriately named, or Flood Avenue, which was always fun. But yeah, so I think that's going to be one of those unknowns, and I think that brings us to sort of the next topic is the challenge of the unknowns, right? So everybody thinks, okay, on the track, just don't crash, you'll be fine, set your times and be good. But I mean, what's your approach that you guys take to the transits? Because that's a real factor in finishing the event.
Yeah, I mean, for us, timing everything, right? Switching back and forth, not getting too groggy. There was a pretty bad rainstorm, I think, was that Atlanta that we drove through about halfway through the trip. That was pretty bad. We kind of pulled over. There was a car literally stopped in the middle of the interstate. So like, I mean, there's danger everywhere. I think for us, hopefully the weather holds out. I know the wing grandpas were worried about snow here in Denver. It being May, I'm more worried about hail. So fingers crossed we don't get hail, because High Plains is literally like a high plain. There's no trees, there's nothing. If you're stuck out there, you're gonna get hit by hail pretty hard. So that's kind of my concern. Not really snow. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we don't see that, and we kind of beat the weather and hopefully make our way around it. So
awesome. Obviously, we're all hoping that everybody makes it through today okay, and yesterday, a lot of loss going on yesterday. So hopefully we don't, continue to encounter that, but it's an ever-present danger there. Brian, what else do you have?
So this is a question for both of you. What track have you seen on a previous One Lap? Maybe not the two that you've done previously, but what track have you seen on One Lap that you would love to see return to the schedule, or a track that we have not been to that you would like to see sometime in the future?
I really enjoyed Road Atlanta. That was a fun track. I feel like I could do a little better on it this next year. Did fairly well on it. Got some damage on the car during that one, tore off a lip on the car, but it was a pretty fun track. I feel like I did a lot of virtual sim racing on that one this year, and love to go back to that one.
Yep, I agree. Road Atlanta. A track I'd like to see us go to is Ozarks International Raceway down in Southern. I just came back from running that last weekend, and that is, it's a really fun track to run. I guess the only thing Brock would think about is it a track that people would be safe on, because it's 19 turns, it's blind hills, it's blind corners, and it does take you, admittedly, it does take you about a half a day to a day to really learn the track. But that's a fun track. I'd like to go up and try maybe some of the tracks up in the Chicago area, or up north. I think we were Gingerman at one time, but that was a nice little track as well too.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And in reference to Ozarks, I think the only thing that we looked at there that we weren't completely impressed with was the runoff area. Because again, when I know Brock approaches tracks, he looks at it, tracks that are more designed for motorcycle racing as well, because they have a lot of good runoff area to set a bike down and be able to roll a bit. And Ozark didn't really have that. So potentially, there's some ways to get around that in the future, and we'll take a look at that. But I know that was the initial, at least. But everything I've heard from Ozark's been positive as well. So absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, with Ozarks, there's a lot of hills. So basically, a lot of times you're basically at the bottom of the hill planting a car before you go back up and you do the turn. And there's only really two really sharp turns at Ozark. The rest is kind of uphill and kind of sweepers, and a couple that are a little off camber. But it's a pretty fun track to run.
Absolutely. So speaking of tracks, let's stay on that for a second. This year, what are you looking forward to the most, and what's got you hesitant?
Well, I'm looking forward to running NCM. We didn't get to run it last year because we were in St. Louis getting a wheel repaired. So we didn't get to run that last year, which from what I hear, maybe that was kind of a good thing as well too. I don't know. But so I'm looking forward to running that, and that has me most hesitant as well too, because it's a fast track, and you've got some nice sweeper turns, but you have to know where to slow down. I was at Ryan's a couple of weekends ago, and he has a driving simulator. So I was trying to practice on that, but one of my granddaughters was trying to practice with me at the same time I was on that track, and we only got as far as out of the pits and then directly into the trees. So her entire motivation was to get out of the pits and then drive directly into the trees. So hopefully I don't repeat that when we're there.
Yeah, let's not do that. Not the recommended line.
Yeah.
You'll probably need
Yeah.
a few wheels at that point.
Yeah. I would say for me, I'm looking forward to Pit.
Okay.
That one seems like a really fun one. A lot of quick turns. Yeah, so that one's kind of the one I've spent the most on. We've both been to High Plains. That one's a fairly, I would say, I don't know, technical, but there's some challenging turns for sure. Late apex turns there.
Especially at the bottom of the hill there. Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that'll be fun. And then yeah, we kind of picked out our track. So as my dad said, I've been putting in the hours on the sim racer. I didn't have that last year, so I think that'll be kind of, fingers crossed, a leg up for me this year. I know a bunch of people have them, but hopefully it translates well. It was the first year last year driving his Corvette, so I'll feel a little bit more comfortable there. And I guess just it's not my car, it's not my problem if I crash it. I guess we'll go with that.
Also,
but
I love it.
yeah,
Points for the Brockism right away.
yeah, we'll just push it to the limit. We'll see how hard it can go. But yeah, I think we've kind of picked out our tracks. We're looking forward to the ones we've got. So
excellent. And Brian, I think it's interesting, as we've been doing the interviews this year, it seems as though there's a real clear, at least tie between people's sort of favorite track this year. It's really between Pitt and NCM.
Yeah.
And for me, for Pitt, it's very interesting because I still remember it as Beav Run. And I remember it as just this very small, quick track, and then they've expanded it. And I guess kudos to them for doing a really great job. Look, I've run there a few times doing endurance racing there, and it's a whole bunch of fun. But I guess I still have that mental, block of it being Beav Run and this little small track, and I guess I haven't myself given it the credit it deserves. So yeah, I think we will do the poll this year and see what comes out on top. But good job, right? What else you got, Brian?
So Ryan, you're talking about doing a lot of sim work. I guess you're running the mods on Assetto Corsa. What other sims are you using? I guess iRacing, and what kind of wheel and pedal setup do you have? And are you doing VR or what?
Yeah. So I've got a VR setup. I've got a Fanatic setup. So I think it's like DD Plus drive wheel, like a Porsche wheel with their little podium setup on it, and then the Club Sport Plus, I think, pedal setup. So it's been pretty nice. I set that up in the wintertime. I do have iRacing. I find myself enjoying, even though it's worse graphics, AC's Assetto Corsa, not even the competition later one, just the old school one where you can get all the mods. To me, that's fun, just playing the tracks that you can actually go to. I think they're supposed to come out with another one, so hopefully a lot of those folks that have built all the tracks will kind of migrate to the new one that's supposed to come out this year. But it's been a lot of fun getting that in. Hopefully, it'll be interesting the first year of sim racing, using that to learn the course, but then kind of just having that second half of the learning curve of, okay, now that you're in your car, what can your car do? Because it's probably not as tight of turning as the Ferrari F1 car that I've been driving on the track. So we've been racing with those, and then swapping to the Corvette. But it's a lot of fun in VR. You get kind of that same sort of over the steering wheel look that you get in a car. So.
Yeah, I can't do the VR. I can do it for about 10 minutes, and then I'm like, okay, take this off, or I'm going to lose my lunch.
Yeah, that's how Pat was. He basically put it on for half a lap and said, "Give me a TV." So I had to haul a big TV down there for him. And
Yep.
put a TV in front of that. But yeah, luckily I've not gotten motion sickness on that yet. But it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Awesome. So,
Solomon, would you mind if I kind of shifted gears for a minute and ask you a question?
Ask away. I love it. Go for it.
All right. So this will, okay, as you said, this will be my third year, but I don't know a lot about you or a lot about Bryan. So I went and found kind of an online profile for you. I see you graduated from a business school. You've done some interesting things in your career, but you started as a racing car driver.
Kind of, in the sense. So I started doing a challenge series way back when, way back when. Did okay there, and then got into a whole bunch of different things, doing different roles from there. Didn't bend up a lot of equipment. Was never, at the very, very pointy end of the field, but I got around okay. Didn't bend stuff, and I've just sort of continued it. And I would imagine similar to the relationship you and Ryan have. My dad was really, really into cars. Wasn't a driver, however. He tried racing once, way before I was born. Put the car on its roof and stopped there, but his love of cars still continued. Spoke with me about it, and thank you for asking, actually, because it's timely. We're coming up on 5 years since he passed, and it's always an introspective part of the year. He would be talking with me about the greats, Jackie Stewart, Fangio, Sterling, and all growing up. And he always had English sports cars. So the Lotus that you have back there on top of that Fiat is, poignant. We had a Lotus as well. That was sort of his dream car, and he had gotten that and then got rid of it because it turned out to be a nightmare. But yeah, that's sort of my background.
I understand, but you're a Mustang guy, right?
I am. Not for any other reason than I just happen to continually fall into them. So we had a 2011 Shelby, and then after that year, I also started working with Roush Performance, Jack Roush Jr., and then got into the world of Roush and Roush Performance. We became really close friends, and I continued doing work with them. And then Billy Johnson and myself from 2011 on also got very close, and we've done a host of projects together. So, and him obviously being the winningest driver in what is it? Brian, is it Michelin
Pilot Cup
Michelin
now.
Pilot up there. Now it is, yeah. But also sort of with Mustangs in general, I kept finding myself in the seats, and I was right seat a lot of times or left seat with Billy. So learning everything there is about these vehicles and really getting to understand how they behave and what to do to set them up. And then, when I picked up a 14 Shelby then and worked on that and tracked that and developed that. And then when he did the 2020 GT500, he was the development driver for that. In fact, all the automatic shift mapping and track mode is his. The suspension setups, everything are all his. I thought, you know what? It's been 10 years since we've done it together anyhow in 2021. I'm going to buy one. Let's make it what you wanted it to be, or at least try to before Ford's bean counters got a hold of it. And let's go out and run it. So we did. And that's sort of why I stick with Mustangs.
So I think I was listening to one of your interviews. I think it was with the Hall Pass guys. And you kind of took a tangent off where you were stereotyping Corvette owners and drivers, basically the attire that we would wear. So, knowing that you're a Mustang guy, I went on the old interwebs and I said, well, what do Mustang guys wear?
Oh, we hit crowds.
I couldn't find anything. So, but I did.
Generally handcuffs because we hit crowds.
Yeah, I did find something that says 10 things driving a Ford Mustang says about you. So let's go through this list and we'll see how many of these you identify with.
I like it. Turnabout is fair play. Go ahead.
You like attention.
Turnabout is fair play. Go for it.
Yeah. You're all about the journey, not just the destination.
Fair.
Your car is part of your self-care routine.
No. I ascribe to the Brock Yates rule of car care. I leave it outside, and if it rains, it cleans it.
You travel light and alone.
Nope. Brian is not light, and I always travel with him.
Yeah. Your Instagram feed is full of car pictures.
Nope. Family.
Yep. You like a little danger in your life.
Yep.
This one is kind of interesting. You are a woman, because the Mustang was specifically marketed to women when it came out. So you're a woman. Yeah.
Stop.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. You're driving your dream car.
Ooh, I don't think so.
No, you want it all. You want sexy, fast, and cheap.
Obviously, I live near Philadelphia.
And number 10 is you can't get out of a car show or a Cars and Coffee without running into something.
Ooh, I haven't done that yet. Although Billy's hit me in it, so actually I can say the car has done it. So he has hit me in it.
3 out of 10.
Yeah, so 3 out of 10. So the car will hit you. Yes.
I guess we'll have New Balances in our lawn chairs ready. We'll just sit out in front of the Corvette. That's I think that's the mandatory minimum attire I have to have in order to drive his car, is that, and then talk about how it's super rare color combination of like 1 out of like 70 that they made, but I'll just leave out like that day 70 they made that day of that same color. So that's kind of our tactic with the Corvette.
Brian, I couldn't find anything about you. Anything about you. The only thing I can guess is if Brock is Yogi, or if Brock is the Ranger and Solomon is Yogi Bear, that must make you Boo Boo. But I couldn't find anything about you. So share a little information about you and your background.
I born and raised here in South Carolina. Grew up around the SCCA my entire life. I remember going to Roebling Road in Savannah when most of the infield was corn. I've been barefoot at Road Atlanta so many times in my youth that I'm sure there's red Georgia clay in my bloodstream. We spent every October the first week at the runoffs at Road Atlanta. I've been around the sport forever, and this helps me continue to be around the sport, and then also being involved with Hooked on Driving in the Southeast Division.
Okay.
And what he's not telling you is that he's actually very well read, too, and and probably one of the smartest guys that I've had the pleasure of spending the last 12 years with. So that's something else that he's very quiet about. But
I'm a
no way.
Plethora of useless information.
This is true, but it makes for some great transits. And quite honestly, there's no way that I could do what I do with Brock without Brian. So he's very modest about that. But that was interesting turnabout, and I appreciate that. Haven't had that one yet, so thank you, Pat. I'm glad you're going to be our CIA agent this year, since you're doing dives on everybody. But that works out. So let's continue for a second, if so. So how did Ryan, obviously, again, we see the Brit and the Fiat behind you. How did this start? I mean, did you just get it from Pat? And Pat, where did it start with you?
Yeah, so we had a Mustang when I was in high school, so that was kind of like our sporty car. We had a Mach 1 Mustang.
It was my wife's. It was my wife's car.
Yeah, it was my wife's car.
It was a woman's car. It was my wife's car.
And then he had a 96 Impala SS, so it was like the big B-body LT1 engine. So that's kind of what I learned on. We used to do the tracks that are in Iowa. I remember those. They were like 4 little turns around a cornfield. But yeah, I always loved cars since I was a kid. I remember, man, that's what kept me going as a kid, is just the dream of someday hopefully owning like a Ford Mustang. That was like the big thing. Living in Iowa, you didn't really see exotic cars, so like that was always the dream for me as a kid. So bought that one about 12 years ago. I had some kids, couldn't really fit much in that one, so I tried to figure out what's kind of the coolest dad car I could have. So got a 4-seat Ferrari a couple years back. Honestly, the Lotus is my baby. I love that car. The Ferrari is all right. Checked off a bucket list item, but the Lotus will be there forever. So yeah, I mean, we always kind of worked on cars in the garage and, had fun with whatever we had and just kind of carried that on. I have 2 little girls now, so we'll see how I can hopefully translate that to them. But yeah, it's kind of my car journey.
Nice. All right, Pat, where'd you get yours from?
I think I got a little bit from my dad. growing up, we didn't have a lot of money, but he always seemed to find a few extra bucks to have a little sports car. His first was a Bug-Eye Sprite.
Okay.
And I remember that as a kid with my two brothers. I'd sit in the seat. One of my middle brother would sit in my lap, and my youngest brother would sit in the trunk, the boot, with it kind of sticking out in between the driver and the passenger seat as we'd go to McDonald's and get a 10-cent hamburger. So I probably got the bug from him because he always liked little sports cars. He always had something to drive. His last car was a Datsun, I think it was a 240Z that he had, and he drove that. So, he never, we had the family car, but he always kind of had a little sports car somewhere, and he liked that and enjoyed that. I probably picked that up from, that enjoyment from him.
That's amazing. So it's funny, isn't it? And Ryan, I'll tell you, having two girls and a son myself, I think they're not at the stage yet where they really want to. They want to go karting more than anything yet, which is fine. I'll take them that. But what I've noticed, and I think what you probably noticed from your dad, is that as long as they see you really enjoying what you're driving and what you're doing, as long as it's not this soulless, and not every kid gets dropped off to school in a Ferrari, but but as long as they see you enjoying it, it's going to be something they want to try and see if they enjoy anyhow. And that's the key, like anything else with kids, right? So
yeah, we always let them pick the car, so it's, they don't quite understand what they are. They just know the top one's red, and that's kind of their favorite one. Let's take the red car. But yeah, it's fun. I let them pick. We go out to dates every Sunday and try to go do something fun, and then yeah, we'll see as they get older who tries to take the keys to them and drive. So we'll get them acclimated to that first. But yeah, I won't be too sad if they fight over who gets to drive what. So it'll be a fun.
Yeah, I'm gonna remind them what you used to do when you'd take the keys to the Impala and go, "I'll be a really good dad. I won't race it. I won't do anything silly in it."
Yeah, well,
Lies.
it always came back in one piece, is just a little less tire.
I can't wait to see the argument between the daughters going, I'm not going to drive that station wagon.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I don't know. With the younger generation with electric cars, and we do have one of those, but yeah, it's the red one's a stick. So we'll see if who's brave enough to learn how to drive it. So
there you go. And by all means, take our parenting advice, not Brock's. Brock's been trying to give me parenting advice since I had my first kid nearly 11 years ago, and his advice that he keeps trying to tell me, amongst other things that I can't repeat, is to just, if you need a babysitter, just line your tub with bacon grease and just leave them in there and they'll never climb out. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, right now we're at the we kind of deprived him of TV. So now the TV, you turn the TV on, it's just glued to that for hours. You could leave and come back, they'd be still sitting there, not realizing you're gone. So we're still lucky at that stage. It's a 3 and a 5-year-old, so we haven't gotten quite to the greased pig trap yet. So
he's been recommending that from day one. He's
yeah.
So. I mean, just don't with him.
Yeah,
wonderful in many respects. But anyway, awesome. Well, gentlemen, it's been a lot of fun. And actually, before we wrap it up, I asked you ahead of time if you have any sponsors, and you said the same thing that most of the other teams have said this year. But I'll give you a chance to give a shout out to the wives for letting you come out and do this. So by all means, have the floor is yours, gentlemen.
All right, I'll go first. Well, thanks, honey. I appreciate that. And thanks to my daughter, Claire. She's turning 4 on Friday next week, so I'll miss it. So we're throwing her a party tomorrow, actually. So thanks to those two girls, and thanks to Grace.
We'll all get together on Friday. So Friday at the driver's meeting, you mean, right?
Yeah, we'll crack beers. It was funny. She came in the house yesterday before we went to the puppy store. That's kind of her date choice. She asked me if I needed a beer. So we'll crack some beers for 4-year-old Claire next Friday.
Even better, Brian. Next week, remind me on Friday when we're doing the drivers meeting. We'll just sing happy birthday to her. Have her watch the live stream so she can have everybody in the room singing happy birthday. Even better. All right, Pat. What about you?
Hey, well, thanks very much, Shells. We've been together over 50 years. Thanks for letting me go out and do stuff. And I know you're glad to get me out of the house for over a week and have the time by yourself. Except you're stuck taking care of the dog. So.
Fair enough. Gentlemen, it's been a whole lot of fun. Can't wait to see you in about a week. Thank you again for joining us. And That's all we got for this one. So for the 2024 Tire Rack, One Lap of America, presented by Grassroots Motorsport Magazine, with coverage this year brought to you by Hooked on Driving, Everyday Driver, and the Valente Group. I'm Solomon. That's Brian. And these are a couple of Whalen people getting ready to join us next week on the One Lap. Thanks for watching.
Thanks very much. See you in a week.
Take care.